Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine, and this is Queen Catherine Tea by Harney and Sons. I really like it, and actually, it's starting to run low on it. I might have to get some more. But I'm drinking it today because I am in the mood for it. Yes, because I thought that would work very well with the Moody Book Tag, which I've decided to do. And I was tagged by Cousin at Always Doing, and the original tag is by Slanted Spines. So let's do this. So the first question is, do you consider yourself a mood reader? And not strictly. I I do sometimes read by mood, but I wouldn't call myself, in capitals, a mood reader. I do let the mood guide me somewhat though. So that fits in pretty well with number two. Do you set TBR lists and do you stick to them? So if you've watched my videos at all, you know I do a TBR pretty much every month. And the reason I do that, number one, is to be organized. I like to kind of have an idea of when I'm going to be reading the next month. I don't know if I did no, I don't think I did an actual TBR list every month before I started doing this channel. But I find that it helps as a sort of guidepost, a little itinerary. I don't know if I've said this before, but I think of TBRs as like when you're visiting, say, a city, and you make plans. You make an itinerary. You plan activities, maybe the place you're going to eat when you're there. When we used to travel, it could happen again. But yeah, so but sometimes the best vacations, the best trips have an idea of what you're going to do every day, but time and flexibility to maybe try something different while you're in a certain area. Oh, you know what? I was thinking about doing this today, but I see this that I really want to do, and someone just told me about this particular activity, whatever. And so I think that is kind of how I plan-ish my months. So, a lot of months that on BookTube, there's a lot of activities. There's a lot of read-alongs, readathons, challenges, whatever. And I usually end up joining some of them, at least every couple months. And so that is one thing I do. And yes, if I'm reading with somebody else, I do want to kind of be faithful to that, if possible. But what I usually do is, between that and books that I kind of want to read, because even a month before I might be in the mood for it, I will introduce in my TBR, which I call it to begin reading instead of to read, because you can't always complete things within a month. But it gives me a stack to look at and to look forward to for the next month. I'll be like, oh yeah, I can't wait to read this one, because I won't choose it if I am not looking forward to it. But as the month goes on, sometimes I will change the order in which I had thought about reading it. And I said, oh, this one I'm definitely going to read right away. And you know what? I'm not in the mood for that one right now. I'm in the mood for this one. So I'll do that. I'll switch things up in my TBR according to mood. But also, I will occasionally leave a book out because I'm just fallen out of the mood to read it. Or a book became available at the library. A new book came out that I hadn't planned for some reason, or something. Or I literally did just get in the mood to read a certain book, and it wasn't in any of my plans, and I pull it from a shelf, and I say, you know what? That's what I want. So I do a little bit of both, TBR guidance and mood reading. Okay, number three, do books affect you emotionally, and does the mood of a book rub off on you? I think a good novel, for instance, it is quite successful if it does affect my mood a little bit. So yeah, sometimes if a book is covering some horrible injustice, I will feel kind of upset, like I want something to be done about this. I get a little bit riled up, and I tell myself to calm down because it's a book. If something really sad happens or something really excited, yeah, it can rub off on me. But even if it doesn't, because there's some books that I just am enjoying, and when I close it, I don't, or I bookmark and walk away, I don't always immediately say, okay, this is my mood now because I read this book. Sometimes I just have an objective moment where I'm reading something. So it does depend on the style of the book, the time I'm reading it. I don't know. So, number 4. When you're feeling sad, what do you read? Or do you not read when sad? I mostly do read whether I'm happy or sad, because I like reading no matter what. I mean, I have had depressive periods where I couldn't do much of anything other than what I had to do. And then sometimes I may get a little bit lax on my reading. But often I will read, to help, not to treat my sadness, but to get away from the sadness a little bit. And I don't have a specific comfort read, although there are certain books that I don't mind looking at, even just glancing through occasionally. The broken record of me is that I will always, at least go through 84 Charing Cross Road a little bit. It's a short book, and I may not read it from cover to cover, but if I'm feeling really sad, it's just one of those books that I get a kick out of. Stuff like that. But usually, I just read the books that I've been planning to read, and I just get lost in them, because that's the way to do it sometimes. Or if I'm really sad and I know a book is going to maybe make me sadder, I might just hold off on reading that book. But yeah, often I will read stuff that I know will engross me, so that I'll just take myself, at least for a time being, away from the sad. And it may not cheer me up entirely, but it won't make me worse. I don't know. Just something along the lines of a really good subject that I'm very interested in might do it for me, or a novel by a writer that I absolutely love. So yeah, so nothing specific though. More often, do you use reading to escape, to learn, or to critically reflect? Well, of those 3, the least is to critically reflect, which doesn't mean I never do that, but that's not my purpose in reading usually, unless it's a book that I plan to discuss and review or whatever, but that's not why I reach for a book. It's a combination of escape and learning. I do like to learn something when I'm reading, even in a fictional book, but I also do like to, like I was saying before, get lost a little bit in the book, besides just getting facts in my brain, which I love. I love to learn, which is one of the reasons why I read a good amount of nonfiction too, because you do learn a lot of certain subjects. So yes, I partially read to learn and also to escape. I think those are the top 2 of those 3. Number 6, what is a book that made you laugh out loud? So I'm not a laugh out loud kind of person most of the time. Which doesn't mean I never do. I write LOL a lot more than I actually laugh out loud. But, I will occasionally, I hate the word chuckle. I don't really like the word giggle, but something between that, where I'm reading something and, the little, or, I don't know. I'm not going to imitate what I do, because it comes organically at the time. But, I started reading Broken in the Best Possible Way, by Jenny Lawson, which is her latest book. It's kind of memoir-ish about her anxiety and the weird things she says and all the things she deals with, like losing shoes a lot, apparently. It's the weirdest Cinderella story I've ever read. But reading that, sometimes I've laughed in a kind of like a what kind of thing. But I think I mentioned this a month or so ago. I took the book out of the library, Weird Things Customers Say in Bookstores by Jen Campbell, which was just a collection of things that people had said to her, or people had tweeted that people had said. And just, you can't believe some people. Some things made sense, but a lot of things were like, why are you saying that? So I'd taken it out from the library in the city, and I was taking it home on the subway, and the subways are starting to get a little more crowded now, but it wasn't that bad on this ride home. And something I read, I can't remember exactly what it was, I really actually just burst out laughing for a moment. And I did have some people look at me odd, because who bursts out laughing nowadays? And it was a little bit muffled by my mask, but still. So yeah, I do sometimes do that, but it's not very common. And even more so, number 7, what is a book that made you cry? or if you don't cry, one that really moved you. So I don't like crying, especially not in public. If I feel like I need a good cry, that's different, but when I feel like I need a good cry, I probably am not going to be crying. Because I just can't for some reason. But, so at times though, I will read things and for a moment a line, an experience, something that happens in the book will just make my eyes tear up a little bit, not full on weeping, but just like a little, oh, you know? And so I'm not going to go into every book that ever did that, but I can think of things that made me cry a little more than that, and it's a while ago. So I think it's called something like Dewey the Library Cat, which was a story about a cat that lived in the library. And, you know, stories about animals usually ends in a certain way, and the ending, I did cry quite a lot. And unexpectedly, too, because I knew I'd feel sad, but I was like, I must have been in some kind of emotional state when that happened, though. I don't think it was just the story. And then also, The Elegance of the Hedgehog by, oh my goodness, I didn't mark down the name. I think it's Muriel Barbary, something along those lines. It's a book I read a while ago and then I read again. And something happened in it that I was reading in public and I really had to get myself together because I started crying. And so I try not to do that too often, but you know, can't always control yourself, right? That's what you get for reading in public. Number 8. What is a book that you didn't even know how you felt about? That's actually an interesting question because sometimes I do read things and I'm like, I'm not reacting in a way that I understand. And I'm just like, I'm looking at this book and I'm like, how am I supposed to feel about this? So it was a book I read that I actually liked a lot called Hamnet by, I wrote it down this time, Maggie O'Farrell. And it's a pretty well-known book now. It was very popular. I think got awards and all kinds of stuff. And so, of course, I read it because I knew it was going to have something to do with Shakespeare. And I like to read books like that. And it was historical fiction, kind of, too. And I knew, because Hamnet was Shakespeare's son, and I knew that he died young. And I think likely of the plague. And it was really a terrible thing. And I knew it was going to be a sad thing. But the whole book wasn't quite all just about that. That was just a thing that was in the book. I don't want to get into everything about it because if you want to read it, I don't want to give things away. But I had heard so many, like, I was so blown away by this. This was just the best book I've read in so long, whatever. And even though I thought it was great, I didn't feel quite as moved by it as I thought I was going to. So I was like, is there something wrong with me? I'm not sure what is, you know, because there's certain things I didn't really get about the choices in the storytelling. So, yeah, it wasn't a dislike, but I was just kind of like, am I doing this wrong? So, yeah, I didn't really know what I felt about it, I guess. So, yes, number 9. Are you more likely to read on a sunny day or a cloudy day? I don't know what that means, really. If I'm going to read outdoors, I'll probably pick a day where it's nice and bright out, not too bright, you know. I still need to find shade. But I read indoors and out. It doesn't matter what the weather's like. So I don't think it matters. Although I have really enjoyed being inside when it's really raining, which is more than cloudy. But when it's really raining and you're inside and you're curled up with a book, that's great. But I can read in any weather, I'm pretty sure. Except maybe a very bad hurricane where I'm too worried about it, but that doesn't happen to me very often. Don't speak too soon, right? Number 10. Do you usually set the mood when you read? Music, lights, smells, etc. Not really, although there are times where I've had... Something's in my ear, I'm sorry. Itchy ear reason. I don't know why. Gotta stop that. I have had times where I've purchased a book maybe that I've really been waiting for, or a magazine even, sometimes, and I say I want to read this when I'm dressed for some reason, like not in my PJs, I don't know why, or, you know, I want to read this on a certain piece of furniture, I want to read this with a cup of tea, that kind of thing. That happens, but It usually doesn't. It usually doesn't. I don't usually have to set a mood. What I do have to do is like eliminate certain distractions or certain irritations, which isn't always possible. As someone who sometimes still reads in public transportation or elsewhere in public, not as often, not for a long time in a cafe or anything. Who knows when that'll happen for me? Uh, Although that is fun. It is a mood I'd like to set sometimes, but often if there is something that is really annoying, a really bad smell, a bad sound, someone's chewing loudly nearby, it's going to be a problem for me. Um, Someone is snoring. Obviously, that doesn't happen too often, but anything that can really be distracting for me and upsetting for me. Um, Even I used to take the bus sometimes into the city, which requires a little more time because it's slower, but I used to do that sometimes in the summer because it was just kind of nice to take my time. And I wanted to read, and sometimes there'd be someone on a phone, like right behind me, and they have a right to talk on their phone, but it was so irritating to me. But I have misophonia, so I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. So a lot of sounds bother me. So if I can take sounds away, noise canceling headphones, music or something that is not distracting music. So, for instance, at home, I can mostly control sounds. Obviously, sometimes outdoor sounds, upstairs sounds get in the way. But my older cat, she is lovely cat. She doesn't mean anything by this, but she's got all kinds of sinus issues now and other breathing troubles, which, keeping my eye on because she's 16. But, and I'm sounding a little nasal myself now, but there is a kind of a Darth Vader thing going on with her, and it's a little raspy thing, and sometimes her nose gets covered in all kinds of stuff. She's like a pug at this point. And sometimes, yeah, I'll clean her nose, I'll do all kinds of stuff, and then she'll still be making some kind of noise, similar to snoring. And I can go into another room usually, but sometimes I want to be in that spot. So I will play, like a music playlist on YouTube. They have these study um, music backgrounds that you can put on that are actually sometimes really good. I do find myself getting better concentration. So I'll do that. And that might help drown out the sound a little bit. Nothing too loud, nothing, Even I've had television on before that I'll have in the background, but that could be distracting, so don't do that too often. Last question is, can you leap from book to book, or do you need buffer time between them? Well, as you know, you may not know this, but I'm very promiscuous with my books. I'm usually focused, I would say, on 2 or 3 books at one time. Like, those are my main books that I'm reading at one time. But in certain circumstances, I do have, like, a biography going, maybe another biography going, a mystery book, some kind of classic novel, and another type of nonfiction. I don't know. Any combination of these things. And all of them I'm currently interested in reading. I can obviously only read one book at a time, but often I can read, a few chapters in a book. Pause, put a bookmark in, put it down, and then read from another book. And unless they're extremely similar in plot or something, I can usually do that right away and not need a buffer. There are times when a book gets really intense, or when I finish a book that is really good and I really just need some time to think about it. I don't just close the book and immediately open up another book. But I don't know. I don't need that much time. I don't need to rarely do I need to recover from a book. So maybe a few minutes, maybe, jot down something in a journal or something, keep record of something. Maybe flip through some Instagram or something. Maybe look through a magazine or something, and then I could go on to another book if that's what I'm doing at the time. So yeah, I don't think I am kind of a person who is all over the place sometimes. So I can usually manage to do that. But the problem is just focusing in general. So that is my those are my answers to the tag. I was trying to find someone who, well, not so much hasn't been tagged, because you can be multiply tagged. That's kind of nice to be popular. I was trying to find someone who I hadn't seen had done the video, at least not recently. So I thought, middle of the book march. If you are in the mood to do this, you are it. And that's all for now. Hope you've enjoyed this tag. And this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day. Goodbye.